Good evening. Welcome to our late board meeting. But you know what? It's great to have the family here that understands we're kind of getting a little busy and we don't have everybody else here. Other than that, camera makes me a little nervous. But that's all right. Welcome to our board meeting. It's been a couple of months since we've met. Our agendas are posted around the room for you to follow. And before we get started, we need to have a pledge of allegiance. So we've asked one of our students, Mr. Dave Howes, if he'd lead us in that. Thank you, Dave, please.
Very excited. Please stand. This is wonderful. It's just like the old days. Yes. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully everybody's getting excited for school to start here shortly because I missed the entertainment today. The kids from school, so. Board, our first action item on the agenda would be the consent calendar. I'd entertain a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Doug. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, board. This action item that we have would be the approval of a parameters resolution. Mr. Robert Peterson, please.
Thank you, President. As you know, in November 2017, voters convincingly approved a $97 million bond election to build and remodel schools and facilities. And we were anticipating that we would issue that $97 million over 4 years. And because of our rising assessed values and those types of things, we're able to do it over 3 years. Our first issue was $27 million, then we had $35 million, and now we're going for a third of the final $35 million. And before we can issue bonds, we have to pass a parameters resolution, and that was sent to you. And this kind of pulls sets the wheels in motion legally. We're set to close in October on this, if all goes well, we're on the calendar. But if we get up to October and things aren't right, or the interest rates have gotten away from us for some unknown reason, it's rare that something's going to happen. This doesn't commit us to sell the bonds. But we can sell the bonds without passing the resolution. And we have with us today Preston Kirk from Matt Dugdale from George K. Brom, and Ron Pierke from Chapman Cover. And I don't know if you guys want to say anything, like to tell us about, because interest rates are pretty low right now. Do you care to comment or anything like that?
I'll just say a couple of things. All this turmoil back in Washington and the trade stuff has actually sent municipal rates for those political subdivisions, not only in the city of Utah, but across the country, to really almost all-time lows. Interest rates are down over 1% just in the last year. When we approached the voters, we made calculations back then based on what we thought interest rates would do, and they really cooperated. We would anticipate that this next bond issue would probably be somewhere around 2.5% if rates hang in there. I think the model we put together was based on a pretty average growth rate of taxable value, as Dr. Peterson mentioned, and then that coupled with low interest rates sets the district up where you could go out and finance some additional projects and still not raise that debt service tax levy to the patrons.
Preston, are you, as you look ahead a little bit, are you seeing any of our series of bonds that might be good candidates for even refinance?
Correct. We've refunded all that we can. The other series of bonds that I looked at were your series 2011. As you recall, there was a change in the fall of 2017 that said you can't advance refund bonds anymore. That is where you sell bonds, set up an escrow until the call date. If the call date's more than 90 days out, the call those 2011 bonds is, I believe, in 2021, and so we're about a year away. There's about $5 million that could be refunded, probably for $200,000-300,000 in savings, but those can't be included with this issue that we're talking about.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So, President, I've asked that the motion be granted to approve the parameters resolution as outlined in the agenda. And then after we take a vote, hopefully it's approved, you and I need to sign things.
Great, thank you, Dr. Peterson, and Preston, Matt, and Ryan, welcome, and thank you for making the trip up. We mostly appreciate your assistance in our district and what we've done. Board, you've heard a presentation by Dr. Peterson. I'd entertain a motion to accept the resolution authorizing what's in your agenda. Moved by Bruce.
Second.
Second by Jan. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, board. Thank you guys again. We sure appreciate it. Next item would be the approval of property tax rates and revenues for tax year 2019. Dr. Peterson, again, please.
At the time when we approved our budget, we had all of our rates that we levy except for one, and that was the state basic rate. And we levy it, but it's collected by it's really set by the state legislature, the state tax commission, and they did not have that levy at the time. And so now there's a form that, once again, John will have to sign after, will recertify the rate, and then this goes on to the state tax commission of the county. And so all of our rates are final. We're standing at 0.006110 over 6 levies. And because of rising assessed value, the rate is actually lower by over 3% than last year. And so if people see an increase in their taxes, it's because their values are higher than that. And so once again, we'd ask you to approve this final rate, and it's in your packet, so that we can turn this, sign this, and turn it into the proper officials.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Board, you've heard Robert's presentation on, I would entertain a motion on the resolution adopting the final tax rates and budgets for 2019. So moved by Janice. Second by Paul. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, board. The motion carries. Thank you, Robert. And with that one, if we could just do the Robert show, we'd like to go ahead and just trigger a date on the Riverdale West Bench RDA. Dr. Peterson, please. And thank you, Roger, and your team from Riverdale being with us tonight.
Earlier, John, you said that you missed the student presentations and that kind of thing. I do too, because at this time I can tip into my nuts and stuff.
We have students. We're all right.
And, okay, almost 10 years ago, back when RDAs were in existence, we entered into an RDA with Riverdale City and other taxing entities, we approved, this board approved an RDA in Riverdale called the West Bench RDA. And if I'm wrong, this Riverdale folks correct me. And when you approve that, they have 10 years in which to pull the trigger and start a project. For various reasons, they haven't been able to do that, and now they're asking for an extension on that trigger date for up to 3 years, 1 to 3 years. We've examined their proposal. I've gone through our board processes. John and I met, and we actually, it's kind of historic. It was a TEC meeting since it's an RDA. You have to check TEC committee, and when I saw that, I thought, oh, it's been a while since I've been in one of those. And then John and I had a good view of it, and then it went to our committee, the subcommittee of the board, and so we had 3 more board members plus the superintendent have a look at it. And we are all in concurrence along the way that we should grant this extension, and so that when we meet again with our tech committee, that we're in a position to say, yeah, bond to grant the extension. So that's our recommendation. And I don't know if folks from Riverdale have anything more to add or not.
Please.
Thanks, Mr. Peterson. It is tech. It was the budget project plan area was approved in October 2012. We have to pull that trigger between 2014 and 2020. And as I explained to you, we're not yet finalized in acquiring the proper developer in that area. This is the area east of or west of I-84 and then east of I-15, right near the Gibby Floral area of the property off of Riverdale Road. As you go up the hill towards Roy heading westbound. That project area, we are working with the current developer right now. It's a very favorable project that they're interested in doing in that area. However, that takes time. And we have to pull this trigger by our fiscal year 2020, which would be the end of June, approximately here in about 8 to 9 months. So that being said, we're here to the board asking for an extension of time. Mr. Peterson mentioned 3, we would prefer 5 if we could.
But that's what's in,
It's in
that's what's in the memo.
That being said, we appreciate your time and consideration tonight. Marcelo wanted to be here tonight. He's out of town. But he sends his hello and welcome to consideration of this request tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Worthing. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Board,
Yeah, my memo's accurate, sorry, I was.
I have it as 2025, 2025 schedule. So I'll propose that as such, if that's all right. Board, you've heard the presentation, and thank you, Roger, for your comments. That we approved an extension on the Riverdale RDA trigger date to 2023, actually 2025.
Oh, 2020.
To accept that. Oh, second by Dean. Any discussion?
Hold on just a second. So 5 years is 20.
2020.
From June 2020 to June of 2025.
Yeah, that's
In your memo, Robert, says 2023 through 2025, so it creates
There's
a
a
window.
range.
It's a
It's a
window.
range.
The memo, so the understanding is that the end date of that would be 2025.
Yeah, okay, all right. Just want to make sure.
Okay, thank you. Still, board, we're good on the motions and the seconds. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, board. Motion carries. Thank you. Good luck, Riverdale, on your development.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next, approval and revision would be policy 4199, special education policy statement, first reading. Please, Jennifer Warren.
Superintendent, Board, we are requesting a update on policy 4199. Part of the policy revisions that you have a copy of are that our legal counsel, Heidi Alder, has done a revision since we were presenting on this matter at this time to align with the way that she's formatting our policies moving forward with the district. Part of this is also that we are asking for approval on a first reading of our special education policies and procedures. The State Office of Education requires of districts to update their policies because in their terminology, the sun is setting on a discrepancy model in looking at special education eligibility under specific learning disability, and we are moving to patterns of strength and weaknesses, which as a district, we sought board approval last year to pilot, so it is now written into our policies. USBE does provide a template for our policies and procedures manual, and so we have taken that template and updated it, and then they require approval of our manual prior to requesting board approval. So at this time, we are requesting approval of a revision of policy 4199 and our special education policies and procedures manual on a first reading.
Thank you, Jennifer. Board, you've heard the presentation. I entertain a motion for revised policy 4199, special education policy, a statement on the first reading of patterns of strengths and weaknesses. Janice? Second by Bruce. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll see you next month. But until then, we'll see you on the next one.
On the next one as well.
Yes. Policy 2366, Special Education Transportation Policy on first reading. Jennifer.
Thank you very much, Superintendent and Board. So we are requesting a proposed addition of a special education transportation policy, which would be policy 2360. What we are proposing is a policy to create consistency for parents, transportation, special education teams when they are considering providing transportation services to special education students. We have worked in conjunction with transportation and our district legal counsel, and we have consulted and referenced transportation state and federal policies in addition to state board special education rules, and have provided a draft copy of the policy to the board for consideration, and we're requesting approval of policy 2360 on a first reading.
So Jennifer, to be clear, this is a revision of an existing
No,
policy,
this
or
would-
this is a
Yes,
new
this would be a
policy?
new policy, yes.
Thank you, Jennifer. Superintendent. Board, you've heard the presentation on, I would entertain a motion on the approval of policy 2316, Special Education Transportation Policy on a first reading. Paul, so moved by Paul, second by Bruce. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, thank you, Board. Motion carries.
Great, thank
Again,
you.
we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Approval of revision policy 7120, code of conduct between employees and students on a first reading. Larry, you ought to feel like an odd man out, but go ahead.
I'm used to being the odd man out, sir.
Oh, yes.
President Ritchie, Superintendent Stevens, board members, Heidi Alder's done a tremendous amount of work on policy 7120. Heidi couldn't be with us tonight, so she's asked me to fill in. I'd like to read the memo that Heidi's written. It says, pursuant to House Bill 391 from the 2019 legislative session, all school districts and charter schools must create a policy governing appropriate behavior between employees and students in order to retain governmental immunity in the event of an injury resulting from sexual abuse committed against a student by an employee. Prior to this bill, schools were immune from lawsuits by students who were injured due to sexual abuse of a school employee. Under House Bill 391, a district can retain governmental immunity if it has a policy outlining the appropriate behavior between an employee and a student, provides training on the policy, and all employees sign an acknowledgement that they have received the training and understand the policy. Currently, Weber District has a policy governing the relations and conduct between employees and students, but it does not meet the requirements of the law. The amendments to policy 7120 presented tonight would satisfy the legal requirements. In addition, a training for employees has been developed. We ask that the board approve of the changes made to policy 7120 on first reading.
Question. Is the training one-time deal or annual?
The training is a one-time deal for everyone here, and then we will train new employees as they come on.
And this is one has to be in effect by 1st of September.
Correct. We've actually, the law goes into effect September 1. We've actually given principals this first year trying to be reasonable, knowing until Friday, September 13th to have that training completed and signatures obtained. Our tech department is working on a process where it's an electronic signature, so it's not passing around a paper that people are signing, so we have documentation of that.
Thank you, Larry. And for clarification, Superintendent. Board, you've heard the presentation by Mr. Hadley on revised policy 7120, code of conduct between employees and students on a first reading. I'd entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
So moved by Jan, second by Dean. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Board.
We will see you next month. Well, we've come to the end of our agenda, unfortunately. I entertain a motion to close. Well, I like these meetings. They're fun. It's been a couple of months. We thank everybody for coming and spending your evening with us.
I move that we adjourn.
Jan, second by Janice. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you to staff who stayed after. Have a great rest of your summer.
I'm on there.